What up, folks? It's Tim again, aka your boy Chicago. This time I'm out on the road, and we're going to talk about something you constantly hear in the news. As you can see, this video is titled, What is Cancel Culture? We're going to get into that. But before we get into that, as usual, I'm going to ask that you smash that subscribe button, definitely, so you can get these when I'm dropping it to you. I'm noticing you guys watching the videos, you're posting really good comments. I tend to follow your comments. I respond to most of them, and I do appreciate that. And certainly hit the like if you like what I'm dropping, or if you dislike it, I don't have a problem with you going with the dislike. Like I said, I tend to respond to most comments, and I plan to keep that up. Hope to hear from you in the comments. Definitely thanks for watching. Okay, we're going to get into cancel culture. What exactly is cancel culture? Generally, it is outrage. Usually, it's outrage in regards to something we just found out about, or sometimes it can come from progressive change. But I'm going to give you a story and give you a good example of that. This is just a fictional story, but follow me and we'll go with that. Okay, let's take fictional character, 90-year-old Emma Smith. She's a very wealthy business person in your town. She's also very generous. She donates a lot of money to different causes in your city. You know, she has a hospital that's named a leukemia ward named after her. Every July 4th, she sponsors a parade that goes through Main Street, and she has her company name, and she rides the front float, and she's waving to the crowd. There's 90-year-old Emma Smith everywhere. I mean, there's, like I said, parade in her honor. Her business is well known throughout the community. Everybody likes Emma. All of a sudden, you find out Emma Smith has been arrested, and it turns out a local synagogue found out that Emma Smith was actually born Griselda von Richthofen. And she has a history of operating in Buchenwald, a women's concentration camp during World War II. First question comes to mind. This is where cancel culture kicks in. What's going to happen to her business? You think people still going to honor her at the parade? You think the hospital still wants to maintain the leukemia ward that's named after her? You want her name on everything, and you know that she's partially responsible for basically the Holocaust. You know, she has a part in the Holocaust. So that's where cancel culture kicks in when I say it's outrage over something we just found out about. And this is a case where this woman's been parading as Emma Smith, a successful American, when actually she's hiding a deep, dark secret. Or it's just simply something you didn't know about and you're finding out. So that's one way of how cancel culture kicks in. All of a sudden, like I said, her name is going to be removed from everything. Totally canceled. Now, the other way, and the way that's more controversial, is generally cancel culture deriving from something that's new. This is where progressives, right now, liberals, Democrats, progressives kick in. Something new would be something that we didn't used to do, but now we do, and the old way becomes unpopular. And what I mean by that is the way we used to view the LGBT community, for example, or maybe the way we viewed blacks or black and white relations or any of that stuff. And what happens is if you have movies, books, publications, music, or anything that talks about doing things the old way that is now very unpopular, cancel culture will now want to get rid of what you're talking about. Like, for instance, a popular term that defaces the homosexual community is fag, F-A-G. Well, if you got that term in your movies, maybe in a movie or something like that, where this stuff used to be acceptable, just like, a black person couldn't mingle with a white person. That stuff was very acceptable back in the day. Or Aunt Jemima is a good example, where you expected, a female black person to be a maid. All of that stuff was very acceptable. Well, now that times have changed, those old stereotypes are being canceled. So this is where it's unpopular because the progressives are doing it. So it becomes an issue of, do we just accept it and leave things the way they are? I mean, if you were humiliating the race, so to speak, whereas Aunt Jemima, the woman's name is not Jemima or anything like that, and you're using this term that has, it has a history of racism. The term itself is problematic. Do we continue doing that just because we always have? And that's what's behind stuff like Dr. Seuss removing books, Disney censoring some of their movies or giving you disclaimers at the beginning of the movie. Mr. Potato Head is a perfect example where it's no longer going to be Mr. They're removing the pronoun in the beginning to appeal or to address the LGBT community, particularly the trans portion of that. So it becomes cancel culture. Now, I will say this. We're not going to make this a very long movie. I just wanted to kind of get out to you what cancel culture is. I will have a question for you at the end. But cancel culture is a term that you generally hear from right-wingers, conservatives. And in reality, it's a hijacked term. And what I mean by that is anybody of any party affiliation or background can engage in cancel culture. The story I just gave you of Griselda, the Buchenwald concentration camp guard, would the right wing have, would they have a problem canceling her parade and things like that? No, they would engage in cancel culture. Well, even in terms of progressive things, let's take the Dixie Chicks as a perfect example. During the Iraq War with George Bush, they publicly spoke out against the war. They were not in favor of the war. Well, the right wing obviously favored their president, which was George W. Bush. So they began boycotting the Dixie Chicks, whose musical audience was primarily right-wingers. I mean, country music, for the most part, has a lot of right-wing followers. So the Dixie Chicks actually spoke out in a manner that ostracized them from their own audience. But this is a case where the right wing engaged in cancel culture. So it's not all about removing Confederate statues or, like I said, Dr. Seuss and all of these things that we tend to think that is only from the left. Dixie Chicks is a perfect example of it coming from the right. More recent examples would be Colin Kaepernick or any athlete that takes a knee or speaks out against racism, for instance. You had the right wing and basically calling for a boycott of the entire NFL. President Trump made it clear, which was a quote, "Get that son of a bitch off the field," in reference to him taking a knee, which is a free speech, First Amendment right that's protected by the Constitution. But that was cancel culture. You want to cancel Colin Kaepernick because you don't like what he's doing. So once again, that is cancel culture, and that's coming from the right wing. And even more recently than Colin Kaepernick would be Coca-Cola. If you remember, I did a video on that. You can check it out. I'll put it in the description. I titled the video Coca-Cola Be Less White, and this involved the Coca-Cola bottling company releasing a diversity training manual, so to speak, to potential new hires that was advising them to be less white. It's hard to say, but they were saying things like don't be ignorant, don't be insensitive and things like that. And they were trying to tie that to being a white person, which is obviously wrong. There's just no way to spruce that up. But what I'm simply saying is that the right wing immediately went after Coca-Cola. Legitimate, absolutely legitimate reason to go after them. But that, once again, is another example of cancel culture coming from the right. So I just wanted to illustrate that point. Do not ever think that cancel culture is only a left-wing liberal democratic thing. If somebody pisses you off, you're going to want to address that regardless of who you're voting for. So don't ever let anybody let everybody convince you that it's only the left that's doing this. Anyway, I'm going to close this video out. I wanted to keep it under 10 minutes. I will just ask you, what do you think about cancel culture? If we have been honoring something or someone for a significant period of time and you find out the individual was child molester, a good example. The coach over at Penn State, I cannot think of his name right now, but years into his career, well into his career, they found out that he had a history of working with a pedophile, engaging in pedophilia, and covering it up. Now, he had a complete statue in front of the football stadium there for the college that he was over. And he was, like I said, he was getting close to retirement. Do you leave the statue up? It's been there, it's been there for decades. Or do you remove it because you just found out about all of the atrocities towards children that this individual was either involved in or knew about and covered it up? What do? Do you just leave it there? Same thing might be if you had a priest. Maybe he's 70, 80 years of age, and you find out this person has been molesting children for a long period of time. Okay, you throw the guy in jail, but what do you do about all the things that may be named after him, et cetera, et cetera? Do you just leave that there because it's what we've always followed, or do you cancel all of that stuff? That is the argument in regards to Confederate statues and a lot of members of our founding fathers, is that a lot of things that we did not know is coming out. So I would love to know your opinion. Do you leave something the way it is if you find out that they did something that you think is just morally corrupt? Or do you maybe put a disclaimer? Like, for instance, if you got the statue of the pedophile, for instance, I mentioned in Pennsylvania. Do you leave his statue there and just put new information on the plaque that he later was this or he later was disgraced? Or do you just take the whole damn statue down? I would love to know your answer on that. And if you could, tell me some examples that you know of cancel culture, and we will absolutely talk about that in the comments, because chances are you could be right, but you could be wrong. I would love to hash that out with you in the comments. Until then, I'm going to cut this video right here. Look forward to hearing from you. Like I said, hit that subscribe button. Like, you know what to do. If you don't like it, holla at your boy. Talk to you later.